Hi everybody, it's Richard here again and welcome to another ranking video. I've done quite a few of these lately and the reason I'm doing this one is because last week I did a ranking of Sparks albums, and for some reason whenever I think of Sparks I automatically think of Steve Harley and Cockney Rebel. The two bands are completely different, so there's no similarities whatsoever. I think it's just because they were both very successful at the same time around the 1974-75 period, and I've amassed Steve Harley's albums. He hasn't got that many actually, so I'm going to attempt to rank them. Now before I do so, first of all, you have Cockney Rebel albums, then you have Steve Harley and Cockney Rebel albums, then you have Steve Harley albums, then it goes back to Steve Harley and Cockney Rebel and finishes with Steve Harley. Now I'm going to attempt to rank them from 11 to 1. These are the studio albums. But before I start, I think a special mention has to be given to the live album from 1977, Face to Face. This contains many versions which I actually prefer over the studio versions. I think maybe it's because this is one of the first Steve Harley albums I ever bought, but I'll reference them whenever I come to them. So starting off at number 11, and from 1979 I'm going to put The Candidate. Now all Steve Harley's albums are at least pretty good. There's no complete stinkers here, so this has got its moments. For example, Freedom's Prisoner is a fantastic single. The backing vocals of it sort of kind of remind me a little bit like the Fun Boy 3's The Lunatics Have Taken Over the Asylum. The song Audience with the Man is it's a great little sort of piano acoustic number, but there's a great sax in it as well. It works really well. One More Time sort of goes back a little bit to the 1950s, and Love on the Rocks is a beautiful acoustic song. So it's not a bad album, this. I used to not like this at all. In preparing for this video I decided to actually listen to a lot of these albums again, because many I haven't heard before, and this actually quite surprised me. It was much better than I thought it was, but unfortunately it still features at number 11. At number 10, the album before that, from 1978, is Hobo with a Grin. Yeah, this actually sounds a little bit dated. For example, the song Roll the Dice, which was a single, and Someone's Coming, which was a single, do sound a little bit off the time, but they're still not bad. Riding the Waves for Virginia Woolf is one of his best ever songs. And Living in a Rhapsody is also one of his best ever songs. So you get some really good songs on here and a couple of not so brilliant ones. Hot Youth is another good one, and this also features Mark Bolan on guitar on America the Brave. This was released in 78, so it was obviously recorded in 77 when Mark was still alive, obviously. So yeah, it's not a bad album either, but in places it's a little bit bland, likewise with The Candidate, but you know, the highlights are worth it alone. So Riding the Waves for Virginia Woolf is the number 1 song on this. Okay, some of the CDs now. Number 9 from 1992, and this is Yes You Can. I don't even think this is an official release, to be honest with you. I don't think it was ever released in the UK. Every time I look on Discogs or anywhere I see a different cover, so I'm not even too sure the copy I've got is official. But this is not a bad album either. The Lighthouse is a great song. It sounds as if there's like accordion through it, but it's not. It's keyboards, and the same with Rain in Venice. Star for a Week, Dino, you will find on many of those low budget CDs of Steve Harley live whenever he was performing in the early 90s and late 80s. It's a good song as well. It's like a piano led song, but they included the song Irresistible from 1985. It was a single, and it sticks out like a sore thumb because it does have a full 80s production, where the rest of the album is 90s. But these are strong songs, and it's a good album, and this would get my number 9. Number 8, and Stranger Comes to Town, and this is his last album to date. This was released in 2010. Now there's a trilogy of songs on here that are really excellent. Stranger Comes to Town, This Old Man, and True Love Will Find You in the End are all really good songs. There's quite a bit of violin in this, and it is quite laid back, but it's a good album. It starts off with Faith and Virtue, which is like an upbeat song, and he's a habit of doing this, putting like a sort of medium tempo to upbeat song as a starter, and it's never really the best song. You really do have to sort of fly by the first couple of songs before you get into the meat of the album. And to say, those 3 songs in a row are excellent, and that there lifts it to number 8. Now number 7, I'm going to give The Quality of Mercy, and this is from 2005, but this is credited to Steve Harley and Cockney Rebel, which I don't understand why, because there's none of Rebel Mark 1 or Rebel Mark 2 on it. I know that Jim Cragen actually does produce a bit, but he doesn't play anything on it. So I think maybe they did this just to maybe try and push sales a little bit, to, you know, with the Cockney Rebel, oh, they've reformed, blah blah blah, and it might sell a bit more, but it didn't. But again, this is actually quite a good song. Coast of Amalfi, which I think is a cover version, but it's a very atmospheric song, and it's beautiful. Saturday Night at the Fair is excellent, as is The Last Feast. Now The Last Feast is about a 7.5 minute long song, and it's got screeching guitars on it, and it is the closest you will get to the very early Cockney Rebel sound. But even me saying that, Cockney Rebel never used guitars, but it still does sound like early Cockney Rebel. So that they use violins, but it has that sort of feeling, and it's a fantastic song. And the song Save Me From Myself is like an acoustic ballad. It's got a slight country feel to it as well. But this is a good album, but to me it's a Steve Harley solo album. I always find that with Cockney Rebel as a credit, the music is more jerky, it's more quirky and jerky. With Steve Harley it's more polished, and this is as polished as you'll get. So to me this is just a Steve Harley album, but it's still very good, and it's number 7. Okay, number 6, and it's the first one to be credited to Steve Harley and Cockney Rebel, and this is The Best Years of Our Lives. A lot of people might think I should have this higher. It's got 2 of Cockney Rebel's best ever songs, the Mad Mad Moonlight and Make Me Smile. Mr. Raffles is an excellent single as well, but the rest of it is okay. It Wasn't Me is decent enough. 49th Parallel is quite funky, but an example where the live version is far better than the studio version is The Best Years of Our Lives. This is a bland version. The live version is like an acoustic crowd sing-along version, and it is 100 times better. But overall this is not a bad album. It's just not quite as good as their previous albums, and a couple that were to come actually. But Make Me Smile obviously, and Mad Mad Moonlight really keep this from being closer to the bottom actually. So that is Steve Harley. This is from 1975, Best Years of Our Lives. Also from 75, and this is number 5, and this is the one that came after The Best Years of Our Lives, and this is Timeless Flight. This doesn't have any hit singles off it, but it feels like a better album than the one I've just shown. Red Is a Mean Colour is a great song. Again, it's probably better on the live album. Black and White is it's a good single, although it didn't chart. but it's a little bit bland, to be honest with you, and it reminds me a little bit of Tumbling Down from the Psychomoto. White White Dove, which was the other single, is absolutely excellent. All Men Are Hungry is a very good acoustic song, but the best one on the whole album is Nothing Is Sacred, which is a completely stripped down acoustic song. Beautiful. So this is Timeless Flight, and this is my number 5. Number 4, and I'm going with 1976's Love's a Prima Donna. This is as wacky as you'll get, with things like G.I. Valentine, Finally a Card Game, and Too Much Tenderness. It's not an easy listen at times, but there are some really good catchy songs, like I Believe Love's a Prima Donna. The title track was a mediocre hit. Love Compared to With You is a beautiful ballad, and If This Is Love, Give Me More is like a doo-wop song. But with those last two songs I mentioned, again, they're better off the Face to Face album. This also includes Here Comes the Sun, the cover of the Abbey Road track, the George Harrison song, and it reached the top 10 in 1976. But this is a good album. This is more like Cockney Rebel. This is what you would expect, rather than, you know, a lot of the songs from Best Years of Our Lives, or even Timeless Flight. Which brings me to the top 3, and number 3, I'm going to go with 1996's Poetic Justice. Before I did this list, I was nearly going to put this at the bottom, but as I've been playing these this past week, this has really jumped up at me, and I think it's great. The opening song, That's My Life in Your Hands, is absolutely wonderful. There's 3 cover versions actually in this. He does a good version of What Becomes of the Broken Hearted, an awesome version of Love Minus Zero No Limit by Bob Dylan, and a very good version of Crazy Love, Van Morrison's song from Moondance. Loveless is a great little quirky number. It's got like a slight slide guitar feel to it, and Strange Communications. It's got a really good double bass running through it, but it's got a very simple but infectious melody, and All in a Life's Work is just an epic song. This is a really good album, and this is from 1996. This is Poetic Justice. Okay, so number 2 from 1974, and this is the Psychomoto. The 1-2 of Sweet Dreams and Psychomoto, fantastic. Going into Mr. Soft, which it sounds silly, but it's a great number. The 2 biggies on this are Ritz and Cavaliers. They're both nearly 10 minutes long. Sling It's a great number, and the epic at the end, Tumbling Down, fantastic. Really good album from 74. And my number 1 from 1973 is the Human Menagerie. This is their debut album with the single Sebastian, which never actually became a hit, but it's probably one of his most well-known songs. Loretta's Tale, fantastic acoustic song. Hideaway is a really good rocker. Again, there's no guitars on this. This is all electric violins. Muriel the actor is slightly reminiscent of Make Me Smile. It's got that sort of ooh la la bit to it, and Death Trip, which is another 10-minute epic song. Hideaway, Crazy Raver, Mirror Freak, My Only Vice, they're all brilliant songs. This one's highly influenced by a mixture of Roxy Music and David Bowie, and it's a superb album from 1973. So that's my favourite Steve Harley album, and this one's credited only to Cockney Rebel, as was the previous Psychomoto. Okay, so that's my ranking of Steve Harley and Cockney Rebel albums. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope to have another video quite soon. Okay, now thanks, bye bye.